The Utah Mammoth is sorta proud to present NashCast.
What the is a NashCast?
NashCast, the only hockey show on the planet. Hosted by a human speed bag, fourth line wannabe, healthy scratch, schnozzy moto, Tyson Nash.
Who the hell is Tyson Nash?
Never heard of him.
And the baritone with a brain, the velvet hammer, Mr. Silky, Tono Suave, the radio voice of your Utah Mammoth,
Code Blue!
Mike Folta.
Oh, Captain, my Captain!
NashCast begins now.
Ready for takeoff.
Here's Tyler Ganoush and Mickey Foghorn. Wait, what? Oh, here's Tyson Nash and Mike Folta.
Folks, feeling good, brother. I'm so good, in fact, that I haven't left the studio yet. I slept here last night. They're saving on hotel rooms. They bring me into town. I got my good buddy Matthew Barnaby here. The guy's like a bad rash. I can't shake this guy. Cannot shake him. I tried to get him to go to Lake Effect. He wouldn't leave, so he might actually still be there.
So yeah, you said feeling good. I'm like, okay, a night with Barnaby after doing his show. Are you feeling good? Well, I had to work during the game, Tyson, Monday night. I know you guys had the alt cast going. Sounded like it was a ton of fun. What? I mean, you had Barnaby, you had puppets, Kerry Fraser, who's our guest on this episode. Like, did you guys even watch the game at all, or were you guys just firing it around?
Oh, we were slapping it around. It was so good. Honestly, from start to finish. I mean, there's always chaos, right, on these shows and these podcasts that we do. But it was such a high, such a low. I mean, we were crying, we were laughing. I mean, it literally had a little bit of everything. Brent Myers' story, his journey with substance abuse, how many times he's been in rehab, how the NHL has taken care of him is just remarkable. And then, as you mentioned, Kerry Fraser. When you make the National Hockey League, whether it's as a broadcaster or as a player, when you see or hear Don Cherry, when you see Bob Cole, and when you see Kerry Fraser flying around the ice, roughing your game, you know you made the National Hockey League. Like, you just do. That for me, I'm a kid watching all these games, and the refs and the linesmen, they have a massive impact in your life, in your career, and how you watch the game. So to sit down with Kerry and hear all his stories, he reffed over 2,000 games in the National Hockey League. I mean, it's incredible. It really is. We had so many laughs. We told that story that also made his book, and he had a million other ones. So it was a ton of fun.
Well, we also got to talk about the team. I mean, 6-2 win with Nasher in the building, doing the alt cast on Monday against Vancouver. I mean, only fitting. Is that money on the board for you, Tyson? I mean, you're a Canucks legend yourself, 10th round draft pick. But
hey, you can't even say that with a straight face.
I can't. I can't. But a win for Utah, Tyson, against a team that they were supposed to beat in the manner that they did. From what I know, you guys were telling stories and stuff, but just it's got to be good as a player, as a team, to take care of business like that, right? You get up early, you never trail, and you beat a team authoritatively, and you can kind of dust your hands and move on.
Yeah, you kick a team like that when they're down, right? You have to. They're the worst team in the National Hockey League. How? I have no idea. When you look at their roster, you're writing the game sheet down. I mean, Elias Pettersson, are you kidding me? This guy's making $11.5 million. It's an absolute embarrassment. It really is. I mean, did he even break a sweat last night? But to your point, it's tough to watch the games because you're so into the stories. You're so ready for the next question to fire off. And then it's tough because all the goals, right? Guys are mid-story, right? The story's just heating up. The punchline's coming, and all of a sudden, the Mammoth just pop off with 6 goals. So ton of fun. I'm not complaining. I think the biggest thing for me was, yes, you have to take care of business, which they did. The other part is we've been talking so much about Yamamoto, which is great because that's part of your depth scoring. What did he have? 5 points in his last 4 games before last night. But you needed to see Clayton Keller come back to life, and you need Nick Schmaltz. As much as you love depth scoring. You need your superstars to be super. And they were last night. Nick Schmaltz, I mean, what did he have? 3-1. He had a 4-point night, and he is such a streaky guy. I think you guys know that by now in year 2 here in Utah. I think one night in Arizona, he had 7 points, I believe, or 8. I don't know what it was in one game.
Yeah.
I mean, it was ridiculous. It really was. So he's a streaky guy. I would imagine that's going to continue for the next game, last game before the Olympic break. Let's talk about that. I'm sure you guys are just dying on the vine for this break. It can't come quick enough for you, Folds.
Oh my gosh, I'm halfway to Mexico right now. Like,
is that where you're going?
Yeah, heading south of the border. Never been before. It was funny. We were in the room and talking with some of the guys just about their plans and stuff. And look, like nobody's looking ahead past Detroit. Detroit's one of the best teams in the NHL that the Mammoth play tonight at the Delta Center. So everybody's like, they know what's at stake here with the standing so tight. But you make these plans and you just start swapping travel plans in the room and stuff like that. And some of the players were like, yeah, like stay on the resort, drink the bottled water, and it was kind of funny to get some horror stories and stuff like that. All in good fun, but yeah, I'm probably gonna be staying poolside down there, so not gonna be doing
Sunblock 2000 with that complex. Sunblock 2000, buddy. Oh, that sun, you're gonna be like a crispy wafer when you come back.
Yeah, Polish and Irish complexion right here. So not exactly the olive oil skin, but no, it's going to be fun to kick back, and I think pretty much everybody's going somewhere on the broadcast team, whether they're going home or they're getting some vacation time. But last year I did Zion National Park. Like I did more of an active break for Four Nations. Have you ever been to Zion, Tyson?
I have not, and by your pictures, I have to make a trip up there.
Angel's Landing, like, and any of our Utah listeners and watchers, like Angel's Landing is the hike to do. I haven't done the full thing. I've only gone up to Scouts Landing, but if you're doing Angel's Landing, you're like holding onto a chain while there's 1,000-foot drop like 2 feet away from you.
You're like free
insane.
solo. You're like free solo.
It's like that guy who climbed that tower in Taipei. Did you see that?
Oh, dude. Yeah. So free solo was the original one where he climbed.
Right.
I can't remember the mountain. And then he goes to this building, which is, I still can't wrap my head around it. The only part that was reassuring was that it wasn't live. So I knew the guy survived. Right. So, I mean, that was the only downfall.
Unless all of a sudden the screen like went black or something, right? Because it was like a 10-second delay or something like that. But yeah, that was incredible. Kind of like the way that Utah, ready for this transition, kind of like the way the Mammoth have climbed up the standings the last month. Nash, you're coming off January, your best month in franchise history, 10 wins. You start February with a win against Vancouver. Like, if you were a player, do you think it'd be frustrating to have been playing so well, but yet still be in such a rock fight in the standings? Like, everyone else is winning, right? Like, all the other teams are right there.
It seems like every team goes in like a 7 or 8 game slump, which the Utah Mammoth has had a few of those.
Yeah.
I mean, before that game against Vancouver, they lost 3 of the last 4. That's why they brought in the slump buster, right? The NashCast did it again. I hate to say it. And by the way, like, people are taking notice, folks. Like, I'm walking around the concourse here, and everyone, where's Foltz? Is Foltz on the show tonight? What's going on? I love the NashCast. I'm watching it. I'm taping it right now. So people, it's coming. Like, it's been a slow process, but I think, especially after last night's show, I think people are catching on. I know the Jazz are doing some stuff in the Altcast world as well.
Yeah.
But again,
hey, the Jazz have smart people doing like numbers and analytics and like deep dives into statistics and things like that on their Altcast. Hockey just has you. They just throw you and Barnaby in the studio.
We dumb it right down. We dumb it right down here at the NashCast. That's what we do. But again, we're like caged animals. It's like a zoo, right? Everyone's like peeking in the glass at the studio. Oh, who's in there? What's that? Who's the guy with the big nose? Who's the other guy? Like, so it's been a ton of fun. And as you mentioned, the team's doing well. Most importantly, they wanted to be in the playoff picture. At the start of the year, if you could have said, we want to be in the playoff conversation come the Olympic break, you would be absolutely ecstatic. And the best part about it, I know the schedule has been a grind, but is that it gets easier now. You have probably one of the best schedules for sure in the division, right? Of anyone. So that's a huge advantage in that category. And Clayton Keller, I mean, what's he going to be like when he comes back? Is he going to have a gold medal? He's going to have a silver medal. I mean, it's going to be something to see for sure. I cannot wait to watch Keller.
Yeah, and you mentioned the schedule, Tyson, and we've talked about the schedule a ton this year. It's been a big storyline all across the NHL, but especially for Utah because the schedule did seem to have such a tangible effect. But look the other day, and there's this site Tankathon that that gives you it gives you like the easiest strength of schedule remaining. You look at Utah's. Utah has one of the easier schedules remaining just in terms of points percentage. Like if you take all the teams left on the schedule and add up their points percentage, Mammoth have the, 7th easiest in the NHL. So that's good. They've got a lot of their hard games out of the way, and there's going to be some big games coming down the stretch. But just to go back to Nick Schmaltz real quick, Tyson, then we'll get to Kerry Fraser, our interview. Like you've seen this guy for several years. You mentioned his streakiness. Last year, he starts the season 23 games without a goal and still finishes with 20 goals on the year. This year, after the hat trick, he's now at 22. He's 1 goal shy of his career high. But I guess, like, what have you seen from him this year compared to years past? Like, have you ever seen him this hot? Why do you think he gets this hot? I just want more of your thoughts on Schmaltz because he's been such a big piece for this team this year.
He is. I'll say this, and it happens with every player. I mean, it's just human nature, right? He's in a contract year. So that is a little bit and that would be a little concerning to me because he is setting career highs across the board for himself. Yeah. He's going to smash them, in fact. So that's concerning. Is it just because of the contract coming to an end? He wants a long-term deal. He wants things to continue, his relationship with Clayton Keller, the chemistry that they have, all those things, right? And he loves Salt Lake and Utah. So, or is this the Nick Schmaltz, that we're going to see every single night after he signs an 8-year contract or 7-year contract, whatever it is, right? So that's the big elephant in the room right now. Do they sign Nick Schmaltz? What's the term? What's the money? And what's the game plan? So I love what I see. I think the biggest thing for me is, when you put him at the center ice position, it's way more responsibility. And I think he's thriving under it. I think it makes him accountable. You got to play a 200-foot game. You have to play in your own zone. It's taxing on your body, right? But I think he loves it. Now he's a dictator of the puck, right? Does he go left with it? Does he go right with it? And he comes up the ice in the neutral zone that you think is not a relative, zone, but the neutral zone is so important, especially for a guy like a Keller and like a Nick Schmaltz, because they hit that blue line at full gallop, and that is absolutely crucial for his game.
Yeah. We'll talk more Olympics after the interview. We'll get into some other stuff as well, but don't want to waste any more time before we get to Kerry Fraser. What I'm told is a great interview with one of the all-time great referees in our game. Enjoy Kerry Fraser.
All right, welcome back. We're in the house. Hey, I never thought we'd wear these bad boys.
All-time low.
Hey,
all-time low.
Forget our next guest. I think we actually look better, right? Better than this next guest. And no one, folks, has reffed more games in the National Hockey League, in the history of the National Hockey League, than this man. Nobody has a better loaf of hair either. Kerry Fraser, my brother, welcome to the show. He's got a book. It's called The Final Call. He's an author. He's a gentleman. And we might have, Barney, we might have both made the book, and I kept it a secret. I kept it a secret.
Look at that helmet he's still wearing. I
Mr.
love
Pert Plus, wash and go, Kerry.
Tyson and Barney, I told you guys to lose my friggin' number. I can't help you out anymore. The diving, the faking that was going on with you two guys, I'm over you guys.
Hey, we made him look like a fool a couple of times, I'm sure.
Just don't embarrass me. I
myself.
think you said one or 20 different times to me on the ice. But hey, Kerry, this guy, I mean, this guy is the all-time, maybe the all-time, right? Disturber in the National Hockey League. You can back it up as well. But what's the book on Barney? Come on.
He was a pleasure to work, and I got to tell you, he had that angelic face with a smile, but you could see the horns growing out of the back of his helmet, and he was such an effective player, though, in terms of inciting, getting people to drop penalties. Nashy, you were right with him. You were like number 2 on the hit parade. You guys were both really effective at drawing penalties. The diving I didn't go for, and I'm going to talk about that in a little bit.
It's funny because we were talking off camera, and we saw a couple of refs that are reffing in tonight's game, and we talked about you coming on the show today, and I'm like, listen, I had the greatest rapport with, I'd say, 80% of the refs, and you were number 1, and I loved you. And again, there was times you'd be harsh with me, you'd yell at me, you'd scream at me, but there was always mutual respect in both ways. Did we have it out sometimes? Did we yell at each other? Yeah, but there was always, it wasn't like I thought you hated me, or I thought like I hated you. I was like, okay, no, I get it. I dove and I was trying to do this, I was trying to do that, but we always had that mutual respect, which I really respected. It was, I think, paramount in that day and age, especially with everything that went on in that kind of game.
Well, you know, guys, the thing that I noticed that I'm seeing is somewhat missed, other than some of the older guys like maybe Kelly Sutherland and Wes McCauley. The rapport that we had and the mutual respect, as Barney just talked about, it was paramount. I learned very early in a battle with Wayne Gretzky in the very first game that I had with him in Edmonton, where he took a dive off the opening faceoff. I learned that I had to develop positive relationships with the participants in the game, players and coaches, managers, owners, the whole deal. And you had to earn that respect. You couldn't just go out there and demand it because I was the boss. I had the armbands and all that sort of thing. One thing I have to ask you, though, Matthew, did you ever get that tooth fixed that used to come out on occasion?
Hey, listen, we
Tyson,
talked about
I got to
that.
tell you, this is a
wild.
great story.
This
I'm
is
going to
great.
tell you. Then this is
Fire away.
honest to God, the truth. I was trailing the play, one referee, and Barney's going down the wing. He had the puck, and I had a bad angle on a play, and the guy reached in with his stick. Barney bent over and grabbed his face, and he came to me, and I would have had to make a guess, but so I put my arm up. I thought he got him in the face, and he came over to me, and he had a broken tooth on the front. He said, "Look, he broke my tooth." I said, "Well, that's 4 minutes." So I gave the guy 4 minutes. 3 games later, I have him again in a game. Now, I always check the faces of the guys before the game to see if they've got any stitches, cuts, anything. I'd always talk to the tough guys. Hey, are you okay? Some guys had bad hands, and they said, "I can't fight tonight." And I said, "We'll take care of you. I'll make sure the linesmen get in there. You don't have to fight." So I looked, and Barney's got this nice shiny tooth. And plays on, and I got a great angle on this play. And a guy reaches in, and the stick doesn't go anywhere above his waist. He bends over, he grabs his face, he comes over to me. I don't put my arm up. He come over, "Look, he broke my tooth." I said, "Listen, you." I said, "I was the same guy 3 games ago that you pulled that shit on, and I'm not going to go for it this time." He stuck the tooth back in his mouth, and he said, "Gee, sorry, Fraser, I forgot it was you the last time."
Yeah, I didn't do the research quite as well as you did.
Got to check the game sheets, man.
Yeah.
When he told me the story before the show, I almost spit my dentures out because I'm like, that is unbelievable. But I got to tell you, we talked about this last night at Lake Effect, our favorite watering hole, and you can definitely hydrate here in
Yes, you can.
in Salt Lake.
That's a fallacy if people don't believe you can hydrate here.
But it was, listen, it was Don Cherry, it was Bob Cole, and when I finally made the National Hockey League, it was Kerry Fraser. Like when you knew you made the National Hockey League, I'm telling you, when you're in a game, bulletproof hair, absolutely perfect. I don't know what you put in that thing, but it doesn't move. I was so jealous, but you knew you made the National Hockey League when Kerry Fraser was reffing your game.
Well, I'm certainly honored to hear you say that. And, you know, one of the things that I did is I would always check the game sheets, and especially in the preseason. And I would look and see if there's a rookie, new guy that I didn't know, new in the league, maybe a draft pick. I'd do a little bit of research, and I would go out, and the first thing I would do is I'd introduce myself, tell them who I was, and I'd say, listen, I want to wish you a great career, and if you have any questions, even though you don't have a C or an A on your jersey, just come and talk to me. I'll give you an answer. Do it respectfully, but I want to wish you all the best in your career. And that sort of set the stage and the sort of the tempo for where we could go from that point forward. Instead of, you know, being a jackass and, you know, who are you? I don't know who you are. What's the name on your jersey? Which one or two of our guys did on occasion.
I hated McHugh.
McHugh?
Magoo.
Nick Magoo.
Magoo.
Magoo, you've done it again.
McHugh was a kid I hated in junior. It must be anything with an M. Magoo I hated.
And Stuart. Stuart used to say to me, he'd go, I wish I could play against you. I would kick your ass if I could. He literally said that to me during a game. I'm like, you can't say that to me. He's like, I would have mopped the ice with you. But Kerry, you were one of the best to ever do it, and you always, literally always, had the utmost respect for even guys like us.
Well, first of all, Mick Magoo was a great guy. God rest his soul. He had an aneurysm, I believe, and passed. But really a good guy and a funny guy. But he was very animated out on the ice, you know, when he signaled goals and things. And sometimes the emotion gets the better of us at times. You know, we're just like you guys. You know, we're in the fight, but we have to. We're expected to control the emotion of the game, and the first thing we have to control is our own emotion. If we get wrapped up and into an FU contest with the player, I mean, there's no win in that. Somebody's going to lose, and it's usually the guy going to go sit in the box. So you just have to sort of, and I learned that, again, from my battle with Gretz in the first game I had with him, that I needed to be better. I had the little man syndrome, chip on my shoulder. I was, you know, a couple of years out of playing junior A, and I fought every big guy that I hated bullies. My dad was a goon in the IHL and was a boxer. He coached us in our AAA midget team. We had 5 guys go off and play in the NHL. My centerman was Wayne Merrick, won 4 cups with the Islanders, and we won all Ontario championships. Bob Neely, first draft pick of the Leafs, 6'1", big defenseman. He was our defenseman on that team, and so, you know, along the way, you just sort of acquire certain skill sets. And you guys certainly are a testament to that. You knew what you needed to do to stay in the game and to achieve, you know, you guys were both heart and soul players. You would do anything to win, anything at all, whether it was dive, fake, get in somebody's face. It was all about the team and the win. And I respected that. Sometimes I had to laugh at some of the antics that took place, for sure. You know, some of the trash talk that went on back then, I mean, thank God there weren't microphones all around the boards like we have now, because there were times that I just had to cover my mouth from belly laughing.
Yeah, don't you laugh? Like, I laugh nowadays. I mean, I've broadcast for 18 years between the benches, and I'm like, this is embarrassing. The chirping that goes on now, I'm like, really? That's all you got? Like, that's it?
Yeah.
Like, this is embarrassing.
Thank goodness we weren't mic'd up. But Kerry, like, Tyson had a journey to get there. I had a journey to get there. Tell us about your journey, obviously playing junior. When did you make the decision, okay, now I want to be a ref? Now, this is the journey I'm going to take. Obviously, it worked out amazing, and you're known now as a long-standing ref with a great respect from all the players and how many years you did it.
Well, I finished playing Junior A, and I had a lot of U.S. scholarship offers. I was undrafted. I was a captain in Sarnia, and my dad played pro with a guy named Ted Garvin, who was coaching in the International Hockey League, the IHL, in Port Huron for the Flags, and he ended up coaching the Detroit Red Wings for a bit. Now, Ted saw me from the time I was in diapers, and he said, you know, listen, Kerry, you're really a good little player. You play tough, you play big, but you're not going to make the NHL. And the way you play, you're probably going to get hurt. He said, you can play in our league, you can probably play in the American League, but that's it. He said, why don't you get into officiating? He said, we need guys that understand the game from a player's perspective and the coaching and the emotion of the game. So he handed me a brochure to a referee school. This was in 1972 when the World Hockey was coming in.
I wasn't even born yet.
There you go. And
what are you putting in that hair, Kerry? Because hey, that's not as gray as Barney's right now. Holy jeez.
Well,
the curtains back there match the drapes also.
I never fought him, but it looks like it's going to happen tonight.
He's like a button on a fur coat, this guy.
You're looking close. You guys are really close friends.
Yeah.
A lot of showers together. A lot of cold showers, I heard, with Barney.
So I ended up going to this referee school in September. Team Canada was playing the Russians back then, and I was scouted. It was a 5-day camp. Frank Udvery, Hockey Hall of Fame referee and assistant director of officiating, scouted me for 10 minutes on the ice on the Thursday night as I was refereeing a men's intermediate level game. And he met me in the dressing room and he said, listen, I really liked what I saw, kid, and I'd like you to bring to the NHL training camp. It's going to happen in 3 days. I just have to check with Scotty Morrison, referee in chief, to see if we've got room for you. It's funny because he said, if I get you in the camp, he said, the one thing I have to ask you to do is make sure you get a haircut. I had the Beatle cut with the hair over my ears. And I said, yes, sir. So I got home from like late Saturday, early Saturday morning from Halliburton in north of Toronto. And the phone rang 10 o'clock in the morning. It was Frank. And he said, yeah, I got you all set. We'd love to have you. Gave me the details. Show up Sunday in Toronto at the I think it was at the Hilton on Airport Road. And he said, be there at 6:30 and 10-day camp. This is what you need to bring. So I said, oh, thank you so much. I look forward to it, sir. Now, I was so excited that I drove from Sarnia at like 3 o'clock in the morning so I could get there for 6:30. And I walked up to the front desk and I was all proud, you know. Kerry Fraser, I'm here with the NHL officials. The night clerk looked at me and said, geez, you're awful early, aren't you? We thought you guys were coming in at 6:30 tonight. I got the 6:30 right. I just didn't know it was PM, not AM.
Hey, you had a few calls like that on me back in the day, too.
Exactly. So it was amazing because as a player, you know, and as a rookie, I knew enough to keep my mouth shut, my ears open, and just be respectful. And I could learn an awful lot. So after 3 days, I sort of was, and I was really a good skater, and I fit in with the guys, some of the veterans. Art Scove was the #1 referee, and we'd finished the morning skate, played hockey, and I was in the shower. I was washing, lathered up. All of a sudden, I felt this warm stream on the back of my leg, and I turned around, and it was Art Scove, the #1 ref in the league. He was pissing on my leg, and he started giggling, and I said, Mr. Scove, I understand it's better to be pissed on than pissed off. And he started laughing. He said, you're all right, kid.
Wow.
So they kind of took me under their wing. I'm sure you guys have that kind of situation that you experience as well as young players or as veterans where you did the same sort of thing to make that rookie sort of take him under your wing and show him the ropes.
Last time I saw you was in Windsor, where he played junior for the Spitfires. Man, was he a beast with Logan Stanley, D partners when they were there. Wanted to ask you a couple questions, two-part answer. I guess two-part question. Best game you've ever been a part of, and any call you ever regret making where you're like, man, I screwed up.
Oh, there's a lot of those. But the 2,165 NHL games, it's really hard to pick one, but always your first Stanley Cup final. I was the youngest ref to do a Stanley Cup final at that time. There were only 3 of us chosen. I had a great run in '85. And it's interesting because you know how sometimes you're on a team, guys, where everything works. Maybe you got a hot goalie going into the playoffs or whatever, and you make it to that final dance, and you've never been there before. Well, that was like me. I mean, in 1983, I did 1 round of the Stanley Cup playoffs, selected. '84, I did 2 rounds. Now in '85, I'm selected to do the Stanley Cup final. It was like, wow, like I fell out of the sky. But I think having the confidence and the comfort and the support, I worked with John D'Amico and Ray Scapanello, 2 Hall of Fame guys, that they really helped me out in that, first Stanley Cup final. And it was an amazing experience. But the one game that and I'm sure you guys played on the outdoor games, Winter Classics, the game that I did in Fenway Park in Boston in my final season on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day in Fenway was just amazing. I came out of that dugout, where I'm thinking Babe Ruth and Carl Yastrzemski and all these amazing ball players had walked through, and I come up through the deep short and enter the rink, and there are the 2 honorary captains, Bobby Orr and Bobby Clark. I gave them both a hug, and I took off, and the air was crisp. It was like I was back home in Sarnia, playing on the backyard rink and skating on the pond. And it was just, it took me back to my youth in my final year that, this sort of brought it mentally for me into perspective. I started out as a little kid, 5 years old. I was 15 months when I started skating, but 5 years old playing organized hockey, and then all the way through, and now great career, and boom, I'm back in the outdoor game. It was just surreal.
Kerry, I know when things start out, for me at least, I'm in the American Hockey League. I signed my contract. I'm making $30,000 Canadian, living in Syracuse. Wow. In the off season, I had to deliver pizzas at Pizza Hut. Fanny pack on to pay.
You still have the fanny pack.
I still have the fanny pack.
Yeah. Who are you kidding?
Now it's filled with gold bricks.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You saw how many goals I scored. There's no gold anywhere near to my wallet. I can tell you that. But there's my days in Syracuse, making $30,000 for the love of the game.
The Black Blades, what a loser.
Oh, yeah. Literally.
What year was that, Tyson? What year was that?
God.
You're making 30.
I was, what was that, 93? This is 93, I think. I was in Syracuse. But literally, we didn't make enough.
What are you doing on the left-hand side? Oh. I've never seen a hockey player in that stance.
Oh, look at that. That's just, look at the knee bend. But again, as a referee, it had to have been a struggle financially, right? I mean, you're grinding away, you're trying to make a living.
Well, 93, I was making $250 while you were making 30, so maybe I made the right decision.
What a dick, eh? He's still a dick.
I love you, Kerry.
It's funny, though, because we used to negotiate our own contract when I first started. I was 2 years out of playing junior hockey, and I went back. They put me in the American League that first year. So guys I'd played against, like John Van Boxmeer was playing in Halifax in the American League, Dougie Risebrough, guys that, the year before we were battling each other. And so I did like 60-some games and I flew for the first time. I'm flying all over the league, working with NHL refs that are on their way up, just to try and learn. I'd never wanted to be a ref. I had no idea what I was doing. And so the next year, I went to training camp, and they signed me to a contract. And I had to negotiate my own contract. Negotiate wasn't the word; it was sign here. And
We've both been there.
My first deal. My first deal was $6,500 in 1974, and I had $1,000 bonus for working games, certain number of games in the American League, which I achieved. And they sent me to the Western Canada Junior League to do all the playoffs. The NHL had a deal with them. And I went all the way through the playoffs, and Regina Pats were going to the Memorial Cup. They had Clark Gillies and Dennis Sobchuk and Enny Stadiowski in goal. We played in St. Louis. Anyway, all these guys are, again, you weren't even born yet, Tyson. But I was chosen to do the Memorial Cup final, which was broadcast coast to coast. And that was my first year of refereeing. And so I kind of really came out of the chute pretty well. I learned an awful lot on the way, though, because I had no idea what I was doing when I started. And about 5 games in, the this home team was getting their ass kicked, and players get frustrated. Coach was frustrated. Fans were littering the ice after every goal. A guy'd come up and pop off after another goal. I'd bang him for 10. I had him sitting like 4 deep in the penalty box near the end of the third period. Another goal scored, more shit thrown on the ice at the home team. And the coach had enough of me, sent his captain over. He said, very politely, he said, Mr. Referee, my coach wants to know if he can get a penalty for thinking. I said, well, as long as he doesn't think out loud, he'd probably be okay. He said, in that case, he thinks you're a fucking asshole. Well, I did exactly that. I thought, I started to laugh. And I looked over at the coach. He was up one leg on the bench. He was scowling, and he saw me laugh, and he smiled, and then he started to laugh, and I gave him the thumbs up. And it was one of the first lessons I learned. Don't be an asshole. Relax. Enjoy the game. Another goal scored here, boys.
Oh, yeah. We're humming. We're humming. It's the Vancouver Canucks. You better beat these pigeons.
Hey, I'm not going to lie. We could play for the Vancouver Canucks right now.
Yeah, I'm making a comeback. Kerry, you might have a chance, for God's sake.
Well, you know what? They lost Rick Tocchet, and Tock is doing a great job in Philly.
Yeah,
I love him. I love him.
Yeah.
He's, here's a situation with Rick Tocchet, and you guys played against him.
Oh.
He could play any way you want. He was a tough guy.
I fought him by accident.
Ooh. Yeah.
Didn't end good. Thank God for Civic. Hey, where can I send him a box of wine? Because so many of the referees, so many of the linesmen literally saved my life, as you know.
Talk is one of my best friends. I love him.
No way, I didn't
He
know
can
that.
play in any era, any time.
Yeah.
He made himself a goal scorer. He made himself. Guy played in the Canada Cup, as you know, and did so many great things, and tough as nails. Ooh. I watched him and Brad May punch each other square in the face and be like, hey, I want no part of this guy. Then he was my coach when I got traded to Colorado. Adam Foot and a half, who is the coach of Vancouver now, was my teammate. Obviously, they coached together. So
Footer's a great guy.
Footer's
great
awesome. Guy. Hey, I can't remember if you were the ref. I want to say you were. I can't remember if it wasn't, but I got to tell you this one. If you were, I thought it was you. But Footer was on Colorado. I was with Pittsburgh. And since he's the coach, I went over to the ref, end of the game. There's like 3 minutes left in the game. I'm like, hey, I want to call a illegal stick on Colorado. Footer comes over. I'm assistant. He's assistant. They're like, on who? I'm like, Footer. He's like, I have a straight stick. Whoa, what are you talking about? I go, your nose, dude. It's bent like to a 90-degree angle. There's no way that thing is fucking legal. That's awful. And he's like, you're such an asshole. And then I got traded there a couple years later. And yeah, great dude. Love Adam.
You are a beauty.
Yeah, their team sucks. Though,
What
man,
a beauty.
are they terrible. Do not, anyone, trade deadline in a couple months after the Olympics. Do not trade for Peterson. You will get robbed at 11.5 sheets for 34 points. We can combine. We'll do it for $1 million.
Yeah. I can put out those numbers. Oh. Kind of.
If you played every power play?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, he's terrible. Don't trade for him.
Well, the money, last year, dear friend of mine, he's in our private golf organization, and he has seasons tickets at Ranger games, and he's right behind the penalty box, about 8 rows up, great seats. And he was always bugging me to come to a game. And I just before we were going to fly to Aruba last year, the day before, I saw Boston in town, and Marchand was still there before they traded him. And I said, yeah, listen, I'll come to the Bruins game. I got to tell you guys, it was so awful. It was 1-0 Rangers at the end of the second period. And I said to Brett, I said, listen, bud, thanks for the tickets, but I said, I got to go. Like, this is horrible. And there was one body check thrown, and it was Marchand on a forecheck, and it was just dump, chase, dump, chase. You know, it was like a ping pong game. No energy, no emotion. And this Ranger team, with the amount of money they're spending on those players, they should give it away to charity because they're not earning it.
Hey, I played for the Rangers from 01 to 03. Our payroll was $92 million back then, and we didn't make the playoffs. Like, we had Kovalev, Yager, Bure, Leach, Messier, Nedved, Matthew Barnaby, and we didn't make the playoffs. It was wild. It's amazing.
Well, there's the fly in the ointment right there.
We had Fleury at a point, but it's amazing when you, like, I'm not blaming any one person, but if you don't have a goaltender, it doesn't matter. We had Mike Dunham, Dan Blackburn. Mike Richter retired, amazing, obviously, but if you don't have a goaltender, it's like, I'm a New York Jets fan.
Yeah.
You could have the best defense in the world at one point. If you don't have a quarterback, you don't have a team. You don't have a goaltender, you don't have a team. And that's what we had. It was amazing. So I know that analogy way, way too well of $92 million back in 2001. Our payroll right now is $92 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, crazy.
Alex Kovalev, though, boy, you talk about a skilled player. When he was playing in Montreal, I had a game in Florida Panthers towards the end. It was my last season, the last time at the Panthers. And
sorry, we got Tusky here.
Oh my God, my ex-wife is in town. Hey, baby, how are you? You look good. You look good.
Hey, the only guy with a bigger nose in the building than me. Hey, look at this thing. Schnozzy Moto right here. Hey, boom.
Well, if that's Barney's ex-wife, I like the tusks that she's got.
Oh yeah. If it was my ex-wife, it would be stabbing me right now. So. and he'd have a Louis Vuitton purse.
No, a fanny pack. I love it. Tusky. My brother. Oh, well done. Go get him, Tusky.
Go get him.
Go get him.
4-1. We're up 4-1.
Hey, Kerry, I got to ask you. So,
yeah.
I'm so pumped that I actually made your book. But I'm embarrassed for the fact that I did make your book because it was one of the lowest points, obviously, in my career. My job, and Joel Quenneville came to me and said, hey, you have to be the most hated guy in the league every night. The minute you stop doing what you do, you're down in the American Hockey League. Drinking warm beer in the back of the bus, soggy subs, but I did whatever I had to do. That wasn't my personality. I think you know that from our relationship together, Kerry, but that was a life-changing moment, obviously, for me, so I'll let you kind of tell the story.
I've got to tell you, it is the most impactful thing that ever occurred throughout my 30-year NHL career and 3.5 in the minor leagues. I tried to take a bad situation and make it good whenever I could and create win-win situations. And this is the guy. Theoren Fleury is one of 2 guys that absolutely hated my guts. And we know Theo had problems. And in 1996, I had a game playoffs in Calgary, and he went apeshit on me. I'd given him, they got 3 penalties. His was the 3rd in the first period. He cursed at me like unmercifully, foul beyond anything I'd ever heard. He challenged me out in the parking lot to have a fight with him. He took his helmet off. He threw it at me. It hit my skate. My leg was quivering. I wanted to kick it back in his face. I just relaxed the shoulders, took a breath, kicked him out of the game. 4 years later, we fast forward. December 18th, I think, if I'm correct, 18th or 19th of 2000. the game St. Louis Blues playing in Madison Square Garden. Theo had just been released from and he signed an $8 million one-year free agency contract with the Rangers. And he was put in the substance abuse program by the NHL right off the bat. First game back. I go in there. I don't know what's going on. All of a sudden, there's a scrum at the end of the first period. Tyson Nash is involved, which doesn't surprise me. And it disbands, and all the players leave except Theo. And he's the same guy that challenged me, cursed at me, threw his helmet at me. He's got tears in his eyes. And he said, we're standing right between the two benches at MSG and the red line. He said, Kerry, listen, don't let him talk to me like that. I'm trying to clean up my life. He said, I haven't done coke in 3 months. I haven't had anything to drink in 3 months. Don't let him talk to me like that. I said, who, what? He told me, Tyson Nash, and what he said. I took a breath. And here's the defining moment, guys. It's like, okay, looks good on you. Human nature might say, how do you like it? You know, all the shit you put on me. And I saw a wounded human being standing in front of me like one of my kids. We have 7 kids. I wanted to take his pain away. And I said, Theo, if I can get Tyson Nash back here on this red line at the start of the next period, and if he gives you a sincere apology, will you accept it like a man? He said, yes, I will. Now, before he left, I said, now promise me you won't break a stick over his head if I get him here. He said, I promise. I went right into the coach's room, bypassed our dressing room, into the coach's room. I said, Joel, this is what your guy, Tyson Nash, said to Theo Fleury. I love Joel. Great guy. Saw him as throughout his whole career as a player. He rolled his eyes. He said, do you want me to tell Tyson to take his gear off? He thought I was going to throw you out of the game. I said, no, listen. I said, what about him giving Theo an apology? I said, be good for Theo, and it might not even hurt Tyson. He said, great idea. And he ran into the players' dressing room. Now, I'm standing with Theo, red line, center ice, and out come the Blues out of the Zamboni entrance, and it looked like you were going to do a skate by. You kind of had that look as you're going, and I give you the flag over, and you came right up, and here's what I noticed. The boy's lip was quivering. He was affected by this. And he looked Theo right in the face, right in the eyes, and he said, Theo, I'm sincerely sorry for what I said. I said I went way below the line, and I wish you all the best in everything you've got ahead of you. He tapped him on the shin pad. I went, Theo, you good with that? He said, yeah, I'm good with that. I said, boys, shake hands. Let's play. Now, Tyson did everything that they expected him to do. He drew Brown into a fight in the third period. Brown got the instigator. He got the extra mileage, and the Blues win the game.
By the way, I deserved it. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, 10 years passed. I finished my career. I'm sitting down to write the book, and Theo had written his book, Playing with Fire, and he just trashed me, and he brought up that thing in 96, and everything he said, he quoted. It was foul in the book, and I wanted to make it right. So I called Tyson. I said, hey, Kerry here, listen, I'm writing a book. I would like to get your permission to share a story. Do you recall the situation with Theo Fleury, 2000, December 18, 19, in Madison Square Garden? Barney, the phone went dead quiet. He came back, he said, Kerry, that was life-altering. That was career-changing. I said, talk to me. And I got him to write it in his own words. It's about 1.5 pages in the book. It is the most powerful testimony that I have ever heard regarding a player to player. And he talked about his youth and coming up and what was expected of him. And he put on this jersey, and it wasn't him. And, he had to play this role. And I've shared that story, as I know you have and Theo has, everywhere I speak, and with youth hockey players and especially parents, that they get to hear from a guy that made it and did everything he had to do, but he crossed the line, and he's a man of character. And I say that sincerely.
Hey, evolution.
Amazing story.
Evolution's an amazing thing. I wouldn't have done it, and I really
Well, we know
appreciate
that.
you did. I just didn't have that. Yeah, I don't have that in me until after.
Yeah.
Until it's done. But if my coach would have come in and said you have to apologize, like, kick me out of the game, dude.
Well, there was another time, though, Matthew, that I was called in to intervene when Claude Lemieux in the playoffs the year that the Devils won the Cup, and he won the Most Valuable Player, the Conn Smythe Trophy. And he came to me actually physically crying. He was going through a nasty divorce, and I won't get into the full details, but he said, "Don't let Matthew Barnaby talk about my ex-wife like that. I'm going through a bad divorce." Yeah. So I called Barney over. I said, and Pepe's standing right there. I said, "Did you say those things about his wife?" He said, "Yeah." He had the silver tooth smiling. It was shining. It was shining. And I said, "You apologize to this man right now, or I'm going to throw you out of the game." He said, "You can't do that." I said, "Try me. I'm going to give you a gross misconduct, and I'll work my arse off to get you suspended." So Barney goes, "I'm sorry." I said, No, Matthew, not good enough. I need sincere. So he gave him another one, and I said, "Claude, you okay with that?" He said, "Yeah, I'm good with that." And he skated away.
And you can't do that. He goes, "I'll give you a gross misconduct." Like, you can't do it.
I'm scared to ask what you said.
I don't think I can actually.
Oh, okay.
No, I don't think you better. I don't think you better.
There's a couple.
Even with these jerseys on, we can't say it.
There's a couple along the way that I actually can't verbalize.
Oh, yeah.
Like they're.
But people used to come to us. Like Kelly Chase, my good buddy, used to come to me and be like, "Nasher, here's the book on this guy. Here's the book on that guy."
Thank God you didn't look me in the eyes when you said that.
Oh, I know. And like you had to do it, right? It was like part of our role, which sucked because we're not. I know you're not like that. I hung out with you last night for the first time ever. This guy is an absolute fucking gentleman, right? Like I love him. But it was our job to do, right? But yeah.
Well, Barney hit the nail on the head. Over time you evolve. There's evolution. We grow. We grow as people, and the respect we have for the game. Even you do, like when I said at the start of this segment, you guys would do anything to win, and that's why you were great players and you lasted as long as you did, and you were a contributing member of every team you played on. And so, but there's times when the light goes on, and there's something up there that you just recognize. I got to be better. I got to be better.
Listen. My mom was a single parent. She smoked in a doctor's office. Used to smoke on planes. You used to do whatever. Like, you used to get spanked. You don't hit your kids anymore. Like, you evolve. Like, everything evolves, right? So, listen, I've said the nastiest stuff to people, and people have said the nastiest stuff to me.
Yeah.
And I can remember going back to Chris Simon and saying the nastiest thing, God rest his soul, he was my teammate, my line mate, love the guy, tough as nails.
Yeah.
And I remember carving him and his family so bad. Only time I've ever been gotten in a war of words in my life. If you said something about my family or my wife or whatever, no one ever attacks kids or girlfriend, whatever it may be. It doesn't affect. Oh, look at that! Look at you! Look at you! Right? Look at Ovi.
I hated that helmet.
Oh,
yeah!
Look at that!
Wow!
Yeah.
When you got hair like that, I guess you can't cover that up, Kerry.
But the only time I ever got
a beast!
The guy's a beast. I remember the first time I played against him. I was in Dallas. He stripped the puck off me. It was my last year. He was a rookie, 05 when I played against him. And he stripped the puck off me, scored on Marty Turco. I come back, and I'm getting screamed at the bench. I'm like, kid's fucking pretty good.
Yeah.
This guy's good, a lot better than I am. And he was like his 5th goal in the league, whatever. Yeah. But the only time I ever got in a war of words, people said stuff. You're like, you suck, you're terrible, you're a pussy, you're whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And I went to the box, Chris Simon, I'm yelling about his family. And he looked at me, and I never knew my dad. And he goes, how's your dad?
How's your dad? Oh, my God.
And we had the same agent. I called my agent right after the game. I'm like, did you tell him about my dad? Like, did you? He's like, no. I'm like,
because you shared the same agent?
Yeah, Larry Kelly. I'm like, he just got me. I didn't have anything. Oof. Like, I had no rebuttal whatsoever. I like, oh, wow, that one hurt.
Yeah.
That one hurt. And it always hurts when it's true.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, it always hurts when it's true. So, yeah, only time I was ever got. Yeah.
Wow. And I'll tell you, that was a showstopper right there. That had to hurt.
Yeah.
Oh, you see Zdeno Chara there. This is funny. So this is a playoff game, and Big Z's playing for Ottawa. We had a fight in the corner, one referee, two linesmen. The linesmen are taking care of the fight in the corner. Vinny Lecavalier goes behind the net and engages the Big Z, and he starts pushing him to goad him into a fight.
Ooh.
They start to fight behind the net, and they're ending up out at the blue line here. So Chara was on him, and he's a righty, so he was gonna give him one. There he goes. And I popped in front of him and pushed him off Vinny. And the previous shot had me holding like Vinny's head, protecting it, and Chara was just going to come back at him, and I had the finger up and I said, "You get away from him right now." And he backed away. He stopped.
Wow.
Now, the very next year, I have a game early in Tampa, and I'm a rink rat. I love going to the rink. If we stayed right up the street at the Marriott, from the rink in Tampa, and I grab a coffee, I go over there, watch the guys in the morning skate. I just sit there, mind my own business. Vinny Lecavalier's dad came up, spoke very broken English. He said, "Oh, Monsieur Fraser," he said, "I am so happy that you saved my son Vincent's his ass." He said, "I say to Vincent, are you fucking crazy? Fight that big guy." And so Vinny's dad
I'm
was...
not going to lie. It looks like you're doing something else there, Kerry.
Too long on the road, Kerry.
That was like a 4-game road trip.
Oh, you still as bad as ever.
Hey, Kerry, one last thing I got to ask you. Keith Tkachuk,
Yeah.
Hall of Fame. Kerry Fraser, Hall of Fame. When is it going to happen? Are you joking me, dude? Like, the best to ever do it.
I know. Here's the deal. Bill Belichick. Let's talk about Bill, okay? Because it's a similar kind of situation.
You got a young
He's got all the
girlfriend too?
records.
No.
No, my wife Kathy's sitting over here.
Yeah.
She's my trophy, my Stanley Cup. But there's obviously, when I stuck up for the players, that was the final straw. We went on strike. I was on our executive. When I get in a fight, I fight to win, and we won. Mr. Bettman is a man in charge. He's done really good things for the league in terms of the financial gains that they've made and all the expansions and everything. But I can tell you that he doesn't like to lose. And when I was working 5 years before I retired, guys, and we came back from the 04-05 lockout and high hits. The game was faster, no hook and holding, and guys were on straight runs, but the hits to the head were wicked. And I warned them. I had 2 game misconducts that were rescinded where guys were carried off on stretchers. And after the second one, I said, "Are you freaking kidding me?" I said, "My judgment isn't that bad. And if you think those are good hockey hits, I'm going to tell you right now, within 5 years, you're going to have more Keith Primos, Eric Lindrosses, guys knocked out of the game with head hit concussion issues, and you're going to have public opinion against you." And that's exactly what happened. I wrote the book. I was invited to the Mayo Clinic to share 15 minutes as an expert with top concussion experts from around the world, and I said, "This is where we are now, and this is why." And bang, there's just animosity. I don't hold any. I don't hold a grudge. You know, there's one Hall of Fame, boys, that I want to get into, and it's up there. And got to work hard at that, man, because I got a long way to go.
Love you, dude.
You guys are the best. Love you both.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kerry. We so appreciate you. I could talk to you for an hour.
Love you, brother.
Yeah, you were the best.
You as well.
Made the NHL.
Well,
Kerry Fraser was the referee. That was a come to Jesus moment for me. I'll tell you that. I made the National Hockey League when you're reffing, and that's why we were friggin' donning these tonight.
No.
Yeah. And
I don't even get the armbands.
Yeah, you're a linesman tonight. You saved my life a million times. Thank you. Kerry, we love you, buddy.
Just go drop the puck. Go drop the puck.
Well, there you have it, folks. I did not lie.
Yeah.
You know, you would think I lie a lot with the size of the schnoz, but what an interview. I mean, that hair, that personality, again, like we talked a lot about the Hall of Fame, in fact, in the interview. Keith Tkachuk, for me, is the one guy. It's an absolute no-brainer. Has to get into the Hall of Fame. And Kerry Fraser is another guy on the refereeing side, linesman side, that I don't know how he's not the guy. No one's ref more games in the National Hockey League than Kerry Fraser. Over 2,000 games, like 250 like playoff games as well under his belt, which is just incredible. So I hope everyone enjoyed it. The stories were flying. I made his book. Super proud, but not so proud of being in it under the circumstance. Matthew Barnaby, and just the banter back and forth. Kerry Fraser, just he showed a lot of respect for two guys that were absolute shit disturbers, right? That certainly did not make his life and his job easy. And he talked about it because at times, I embellished. I tried to draw penalties. I mean, in St. Louis, we had the best power play in the National Hockey League. So, of course, I drew penalties. I had a bonus and I had a stat from Joel Quenneville, that, like drawn penalties. We would have it on the chalkboard or the whiteboard the next day after a game. That was a stat that he kept track of. So, and that's tough for a referee because you never want to embarrass a referee, especially when they came in to referee system, which he was a big part of that as well. But just what a dude, what a great guy.
Is there any one instance where you remember accidentally punching a linesman who was trying to break up a scuffle you were a part of?
I think it's just friendly fire for sure. I don't ever remember making full contact. I would have loved to hit Stewart or Mick Magoo with a punch. I can tell you that. Those guys were absolute dicks to me. Like, absolute dicks to me. Like, that Stewart, he used to call me an absolute pansy. He's like, you're a pansy. I would have kicked your ass when I played. You're like an absolute speed bag. I'm like, all right. Like, I was so upset.
You can chirp by the officials?
Oh, yeah. Like, it's the referee. And Kerry Fraser was the exact opposite, right? That's why I love the guy, on top of trying to get hair tips from him. But, the linesman, you touched on the linesman. I should be sending Civic and a few of the other guys like boxes of wine every Christmas because they literally saved my life sometimes, getting some of those animals off my back, stopping them from punching my face in.
Oh my gosh. Hey, speaking of fights, Tyson, we got to talk about the outdoor game in Tampa. Did you see this? I mean, what an event put on by the NHL and the Tampa Bay Lightning. It was at Raymond James Stadium where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers play football. And I mean, it was what, 70,000 there? I don't know the official capacity, but the place was absolutely jammed. And people are making fun of, having an outdoor game in Florida. It was incredible. The setting looked phenomenal. You had the players coming in dressed like football players. Like Andrei Vasilevsky was wearing a helmet and shoulder pads. And John Cooper's dressed up like Scarface. I mean, it was unreal. And then we had a goalie fight.
Yeah.
I mean, like, how much of this did you see, and what a home run for the league?
Yeah, once again, right, the NHL couldn't be in a better, more healthy position. The outdoor games that we're having, just selling the game, right, especially in a market like Florida. I know they've won, the last 4 cups in Florida, between the Lightning and the Panthers. But hockey is just growing like crazy. And when hockey grows, the grassroots level it grows. Kids are playing more, right? They're yanking on mom and dad's sleeve going, I want to do that. I want to be Matthew Tkachuk, right? And then to see the fight in that game, like 2 just goaltenders I never thought would ever happen, right? But it all started from Bobrovsky. If you go back a few games before, now the goalies are like, it's now a thing. Every goalie's like, man, I kind of want to get in a fight, right? It was unbelievable. They were throwing bombs.
I saw this tweet from Jesse Granger, who covers the Vegas Golden Knights. He said, we didn't have a goalie fight in the NHL for over 2,000 days.
Wow.
We just had 2 goalie fights within 13 days of each other. Now, the Vasilevsky one with Swayman, like, they squared up, took the mask off and everything. And Vasilevsky's the best goalie in the NHL right now. Like,
Yeah.
God forbid he hurts his hand or something like that, right? I mean, could you imagine being a Stanley Cup contender and watching your best player go out there and start ragdolling another grown man, ragdolling another grown man around? Like, what planet are we on? That was it was bizarre. It was awesome, and it's what makes our sport look. It's what makes our sport so great.
Yeah, and we talk about fighting, right? And I know at the junior level, they're trying to get rid of it in some leagues. I think the Quebec League, there's no fighting anymore, which is the biggest head scratcher to me because it's not barbaric. Fighting serves such a purpose, right? And for guys like me, I was a dirty player. In ways, I wanted to not necessarily hurt people, but I wanted to do some damage, right? And I would punch someone in the face. I'd rub my stinky glove in their mouth. To anything to do to draw a penalty or get them off their game. And fighting when there's a guy on the other side, like this guy behind me, Matthew Barnaby, I know he's lacing him up on the other side. I know I got to rein it in tonight because if I don't, well, I better be willing to fight that guy or the other 10 guys that Buffalo had back in the day that would tear your head right off, right? So that's the purpose of it. You see cheap shots in football. You see cheap shots in basketball. It doesn't happen as much in hockey because the accountability factor. So, but you're right. And you go back to that Florida game when Bobrovsky went down, and they kept their helmets on in that one, and they were chucking for the fences in that one as well. I mean, anything can happen. I imagine Paul Maurice is just crapping his pants going, just don't break a finger. Don't break your hand, Bobrovsky. And no different with John Cooper. As cool and collected as he looked walking in with that cigar, Scarface look. That was unbelievable. That is by far the best outfits and the best walk-in I've ever seen.
I asked Andre Tourney, hey, when the Winter Classic comes to Utah next year, Bear, are you going to try and top John Cooper's Scarface outfit? And he shot that down quicker than a paper airplane getting hit by a missile. Like he was like, nope, not my style at all. So Bear's probably not going to have the 3 buttons unbuttoned apparently next year, but did get a smile out of him.
Oh yeah, that hairy chest of Coops. I got to give it to him over that thing. He was just sucking on that cigar too. That thing was going crazy. But yeah, I mean, and that's the part of the fun, right? I've never been a part of an outdoor game, so I don't truly know what that means. But and to think about the outfits, and Utah, it's on the agenda, right? They have to be throwing it around in that locker room, going, all right, we need to outdo that. So what are we coming up with? So it's going to be interesting. Maybe there's a skiing theme behind it. Snowshoeing. Who knows what they're going to come up with?
Skiing, like Western cowboy. Yeah, I mean, there's a few different ways you could go. I have no idea. I don't know. But we talked about Clayton Keller a little bit earlier. Going to be headed to the Olympics coming up in a couple days. Really, last game against Detroit here before the Olympic break. But have you seen the videos of the arena? It sounds like all the hockey stuff is done. Like the players are going to be able to play hockey on the surface, but we were getting reports that there's a lot of like temporary seating in there. They didn't quite finish. The locker rooms are still kind of a mess. I mean, I think the players, kind of like the outdoor game, Tyson, the players are going to make it awesome. And that's the reason we're going to love it, not because of any of the ancillary stuff.
Yeah, it's going to be the product on the ice, right? The competition, seeing your country represented with the jerseys and everything that comes along with it. For me, again, we touched on Clayton Keller. I cannot wait to see what he's capable of doing on that stage, right? He's done it as a kid. I haven't seen him really do it as a pro, right? Because they haven't made the playoffs. So I don't know what Keller is going to bring to the table, but knowing him, his personality, what he's done with that C on his jersey, ever since coming to Utah, he's a different player. He's a different human. It's in him. I can't wait to see it. And then, yeah, the rink, I don't know how they could have possibly screwed that up. You got one job, right? One job to build a rink and do it on time and do it properly. And, here are the numbers. The rink needs to be this wide and this long. Can you figure that out at least, right? I mean, seating I get, but the The circumference of the ice? Are you kidding me? How do you screw that up? I don't get it. That's a big word for me, by the way.
Yeah. I was like, you just met your quota right there. Yeah, it's a little disappointing to hear that aspect of it, but again, like once we drop the puck, we're not gonna care that like the back hallway has a little bit of dust in it or anything like that. The players are gonna make it awesome, and can't wait for that. Can't wait for that, Tyson. But anything else you want to get to here before we send people on their way for the rest of their Wednesday?
No, I think I bored everyone to tears, so it's probably a good place to to wrap it up, folks. So I hope everybody enjoyed. Thank you guys for following along. This thing's starting to pick up steam. We're getting more subscribers on YouTube. You can follow us along, NashCast official, Instagram, X, Spotify. I think I'm hearing rumors we're also going the TikTok road here eventually. So,
Oh, sweet Lord.
I know, God help us. So my kids say it's the place to be. So we're going to be everywhere. You can't shake us. You're like Barnaby. He's like a bad rash. I can't get rid of this guy.
Great stuff, Nasher. Glad to have you in town here for the week, and it's going to be a fun one against the Red Wings. If you're listening to this on Wednesday, it's another alt cast tonight with the Utah Mammoth taking on the Detroit Red Wings, one of the top teams out east. It'll be a great matchup. Last one before the break, and you can watch the NashCast alt cast on SCG Plus and Mammoth Plus. But thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next week.